Hi, this is Stephanie Lotvin of Tellybean Knits, and today I'm going to show you how to work my favorite cast on. It's the rolled edge garter tab cast on. I have here an example of the rolled edge garter tab cast on that I worked when I was creating the Morning Sunshine DK cowl. I frequently use a rolled edge when I am working in garter stitch, and I include this in many of my patterns. It is a beautiful edging that looks great from the right side, the wrong side, and even the top of your work. And so I developed a cast on that creates a smooth and tidy transition between the cast on and that rolled edge. And today I want to show you how to cast on 12 stitches using the rolled edge garter tab cast on. For this tutorial, you're going to need your yarn and your needles. To get started, create a slip knot and place that slip knot onto your needle. I like to have anywhere from a 6 to 10 inch tail for this. At least 6 inches is what I recommend. 8 is great. If you get a little more, it won't hurt anything, but try not to have a tail that is any less than 6 inches long. Now, cast on 2 stitches using a cast on of your choice. I like to use the long tail cast on for this method. And now I have 3 stitches on my needles, and I'm ready to start making that garter tab. The first row of our garter tab is going to be a knit all row. So for row 1, just knit 3 stitches. And now we're ready for row 2. Go ahead and turn your work. For row 2 and all upcoming even numbered rows, you'll be working the row exactly the same as this one. So you're going to slip 1 with yarn in front, yarn over, and knit 2. So let's begin with our yarn in front for row 2. We're going to slip that first stitch purlwise, bring your yarn between your needles to the back of your work, and work a yarn over. Next, knit 2 stitches. At the end of row 2, you should have 4 stitches on your needles. At the end of row 2 and every upcoming even numbered row, you'll have 4 stitches at the end of that row. Turn your work. We're now ready for row 3. Row 3 and all odd numbered rows will be worked the same. So for row 3, we're going to knit 2 and then knit 2 together. At the end of row 3 and all odd numbered rows, you'll have 3 stitches on your needles. Turn your work. We're now ready for row 4. For row 4, we'll begin with our yarn at the front of our work. We're going to slip 1 purlwise, bring the yarn between the needles to the back of our work, we're going to yarn over, and then knit 2. Turn your work. Row 5. With yarn at the back of your work, knit 2, and then knit 2 together. Turn your work. Row 6, with yarn at the front, slip the first stitch purlwise, bring your yarn to the back of your work between your needles, work a yarn over, and knit 2. For row 7, turn your work, knit 2 with the yarn in back, and then knit 2 together. Row 8, turn your work, slip the first stitch purlwise with yarn in front, bring your yarn between your needles to the back of your work, work a yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work, row 9, with yarn at the back of your work, knit 2, and then knit 2 together. Turn your work. Row 10, with yarn at the front of your work, slip 1 purlwise, bring your yarn between your needles to the back of your work, work a yarn over, and knit 2. Now, To make this a little easier on yourself, I like to work an additional 2 rows. If you've ever had any trouble picking up stitches when you're working a regular garter tab cast on, then I recommend working these next 2 rows just to make things a little easier on yourself. So we're going to go ahead and work an additional 2 rows. So this next row will be row 11, and it is worked the same as all previous odd numbered rows. So we're going to begin with the yarn at the back of our work, knit 2, and then knit 2 together. Turn your work for row 12. Row 12 will be worked just as all previous even numbered rows. So we'll slip that first stitch with yarn in front, purlwise, bring your yarn between your needles to the back of your work your yarn over, and knit 2. At this point, do not turn your work. You should have 4 stitches on your needles, and you've just completed the garter tab portion. Our rolled edge is on the right-hand side. The garter bumps are running along the left-hand side. You can see that my live yarn is coming from the left-hand side of my work. And if you look here by the tail, this at the bottom edge is where our original 3 cast-on stitches were, that slip knot and 2 long tail cast-on stitches. So we now have completed the garter tab, and we're ready to rotate and pick up stitches along the edge of our garter tab on the edge that looks bumpy. So we're going to turn our work clockwise 90 degrees so that now those garter bumps are at the top of our work and our rolled edge is at the bottom of our work. We're going to pick up 5 stitches along that top edge, and to do this we're just going to grab our other needle and locate those little bumps created by the garter ridges. We're going to insert the left-hand needle from left to right into 5 of those little bumps, and if you're having trouble finding them, just give your garter tab a gentle pull to separate out those garter ridges, and it'll be easier to locate those bumps along the top edge of your garter tab. I'm just going to insert my needle from left to right into 5 of those garter bumps, beginning farthest from my right hand needle. So I now have 5 of those garter bumps on my left hand needle, and I'm just going to knit into each of those stitches. All right, at this point I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 stitches left on my right hand needle, and I'm ready to pick up the final 3 stitches. Now before I rotate my work again, we're going to use those extra 2 rows that we worked to help us pick up one of those stitches quite easily, which is really nice. We're just going to insert our needle into one of the garter bumps that we created. And then we're going to knit that stitch. So now we're going to rotate our work once more so that our cast on edge is at the top. So we're going to rotate that work 90 degrees once more clockwise so that we now have the stitches that were our original cast on stitches, the slip knot and the original cast on stitches at the top of our work, and we only need to pick up 2 more stitches. Now to find where to pick up one of those stitches, I like to grab the tail from my original cast on and try to open up. I'm just giving that a little pinch, and I'm grabbing the tail so that I can open up a spot for myself to pick up a stitch. You can see there's a small hole. I'll just use my other needle to point to it, right here at the base of where that tail is, and that's where I'm going to pick up my next stitch. Now give yourself some grace when picking up these final stitches. It can be tricky to find those little spaces to pick up stitches, and if you're patient with yourself, it'll be much easier. So I'm just going to insert my right hand needle. I'm going to move my tail out of the way, and I'm going to pick up a stitch at the base of that tail. That tail is really going to want to get in the way, so just try to keep that moved out of the way while you're working. And then for my final stitch, I want to look along my rolled edge. And you can see here, I clearly have 2 legs of a stitch. I would like to pick up into the 2 legs of the stitch closest to where those original 3 stitches were cast on. And when I do that, I just want to make sure I get my needles under both legs of that stitch. So you can see I have both legs of that stitch on my needles. And when I pick that stitch up, I want to make sure I'm catching both of those legs. And then I'm just going to knit a stitch to get that final stitch on my needle. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stitches, and I've just completed my rolled edge garter tab cast on. Thank you so much for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it.